What's up, family? Brother Prodigy live and direct, coming right through your speaker. Get in tune. Alright, now this installment is going to be on dreams. It was requested by one of my viewers, and I thought it would be fitting to do another installment. I think I've done an installment on dreams already, but I'm not sure. That's bad when you don't even know. Is that bad that you don't even know what you've done as far as installments wise? I just get lost in the shuffle sometimes, y'all. Please forgive me. But yes, this is going to be on dreams. Before I get into it, let me just shout out the book, Gnosis of a God, Gnosis of a God, God. You can find it on Amazon.com. And it might be on another other websites that I'm not currently aware of, but I know for a fact it is on Amazon.com. So be sure and check that out. Okay. All right. Now, shout out to my subscribers that have hung in there through the duration of this channel, or if you're listening to it in the archives somewhere, thank you, and I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Don't be hesitant, and also hit that like button. Okay. Don't hit the thumbs down button. Hit that thumbs up button for me, please. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button and tell all of your friends, family, co-workers, associates about these installments. Okay. Now, while I don't think that it is as important as my love installment, it is important nonetheless. I shouldn't say it's not important. That might be conveying a wrong message. So let me actually retract that statement. But nonetheless, thank you all for tuning in. And yes, be sure to like, subscribe, and tell all of your friends and family about this message that I'm putting forth to you. Okay? Now, before I really start, let me just talk about real quickly. I'm not going to beat a dead horse because I've talked about it enough, but it's always important because I want to make sure you have I don't want you to have any biases going into this installment, okay? Because we tend to think of reality in terms of things that we can readily observe through our five sensory organs, when in all actuality, reality consists of that which is comprehended or interpreted. So reality can be anything. Reality could be your dream world, this three-dimensional spatial quote-unquote reality, an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience, a lucid dream experience. So reality is not fundamental, is what I'm getting at, okay? Because as long as consciousness is interpreting data, that data that it is interpreting or focusing on is its reality. Because remember, consciousness does not have a physical body. Consciousness does not have a specific point in time or a location. So whatever consciousness is interpreting is its reality. As long as it's receiving a stream of data, and that stream of data is as long as it's receiving a stream of data, and this stream of data is manifesting a reality that is its or your or my reality, no matter how strict or loose the rule set appears to be. Because at the end of the day, it's all about perception. Okay, it's all about perception. In this world that we live in, this simulation, this reality, this virtual reality that we live in is all streamed data. Okay, consciousness is getting a stream of data. All right. And, well, let me actually break it down this way. Okay. Now I'll start from the bottom up. Okay. You have a stream of data. Okay. And this is stream of data. Okay. Is streamed through a server, or in this case, truly the larger consciousness system. The system is actually computing the data. And then as it's computing the data, it's delivering the data or manifesting the data to your consciousness. Okay. Now let's start from a top-down perspective. Okay. You as consciousness are a part of a larger system of consciousness that is currently evolving, and there are only two sides of the spectrum, which is love, evolving into love, or the opposite pole is evolving towards fear, ignorance. Okay. Now, in order for this system of consciousness to evolve, it naturally seeks to evolve towards love, because love is life and liberty. Okay. So this larger system is evolving towards love, and the best and most ergonomic way to evolve towards love would be to diversify itself. And these bits, if you will, are streamed data. And this data comes in the form of simulations. Okay. So I don't want to go off into that too deeply, because this is not a simulation installment, but just I say that to say that open your mind, free your mind as to what not only is possible, but what you define as real. Okay. So now let's define our terms. Avatar. An avatar is a digital evolved construct. Okay. It is a product of a 3D evolved digital rule set. It is also a vehicle that travels on the sea of space, if you will, and thus is subjected to Admiralty law, Admiralty maritime law, a vessel in dry dock, if you will. And it is also a receptive or feminine entity in nature. Okay. And it's also considered dead or having no standing in law, by the way. That's just a side note. Now, why dreams? Why do we dream? What is the importance of dreaming? Okay, and this was a topic that was suggested, like I've said before, by one of my viewers, and I thought that it'd really be good to really go over dreams, because I haven't talked about it in a while. Okay, now what is a dream? Okay, a dream, a noun, is a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind during sleep. Now, let me say that mind in this case should be placed in quotations, because, as I've stated before, what is commonly called the mind is truly consciousness having a physical experience. Okay, and this so-called mind or consciousness lies outside of our virtual reality. Okay, remember, the body is just virtual. It's just data, okay, that is streamed or that is interpreted or processed by a server. And this server is this larger consciousness system, or which some call the Most High or God, but I'm not really going to get into that. And then that information is streamed to consciousness. All right. So between the avatar or the beings that we call real or human, between the avatar and consciousness or the true mind is that processing unit, which is the larger consciousness system or God. Okay.
which is really important. So important, let me say that again, okay? Between your avatar, which is within a simulation, which is just data, between that avatar and consciousness is the larger consciousness system, okay? Which is the central processing unit, okay? Which, in which has input and output, which receives and it receives and produces data. And when consciousness interprets this data, it transforms or converts that data into information, because information cannot be weighed. See, data, and here's where I make the difference between data and information, okay? If you have a book, or if you look at a book, that book has sigils, symbols, language, writing inside the book. Now that physically has a weight to it, but the meaning, what consciousness gets from reading that book, cannot be weighed. Okay? Information is not physical. Okay? Because it breaks the laws of physics. Physics tells us two objects cannot exist at the same time in the same point in time. Okay? But information can. One piece of data can have multiple interpretations or multiple meanings. How much does a meaning weigh? Okay, think about that one. So yes, consciousness, which is non-physical, deals in the non-physical, which in this case, information being non-physical. Okay, so now let's just look at this. After a hard day's work, or simply fulfilling your parenting duties, you find yourself feeling kind of drowsy, right? And you want to take a nap, or so you choose to lay down and go to sleep. What happens after that? Well, I'm about to tell you, but perhaps I should really give you some information first, okay? When you fall fast asleep, you are no longer working within this physical reality, okay, or this virtual reality, meaning you are no longer interpreting data through your 5 sensory organs. However, you are always working, consciousness is always working, growing, learning, and helping within some sort of experimental VR. And when dealing with consciousness, information or interpretation of data always happens, or there is always a virtual reality. And just because don't take it that when I say virtual reality, I'm not meaning that it's not quote unquote real. I'm saying that it is discrete. It's data that is discrete, comes in bits of data. Okay, quanta. Okay, quantized data. All right, bits of information that streamed together can provide consciousness with information. Okay, if you take enough data arranged in sequence or in a pattern, can provide consciousness with information. Okay, so consciousness interpreting data in pattern or in sequence creates this information within consciousness. Okay, now, like when you're in school, for an example, okay, and you're learning your ABCs, you're learning your alphabet, okay, they teach you repeatedly, okay, A, B, C, D, etc., etc., etc. Over time, okay, by the repetitive nature of teaching you that, you learn your ABCs. Okay, and then once you learn your ABCs, you further learn to structure your ABCs in a patternized format, which creates words. And these words establish or build a meaning to you. Okay, all right. Now, you as consciousness can't help but to to exist. You cannot help but to exist. Okay? Even when your physical avatar is sleeping, consciousness is still working. Okay? Consciousness is still interpreting. Okay? And consciousness is actually defined, if you're looking for a definition, for all of you analytical folks, of consciousness. Consciousness is a digital information system. Okay? And it doesn't rest because it doesn't need to. It's not bound by the parameters of a three-dimensional, quote-unquote, physical reality. All right? And anytime you have an exchange of information, okay, you need a rule set to define the terms so understanding can be had. So whenever you have an exchange of information, meaning avatars within this simulation, whenever you're exchanging data, as I've said before, the comprehension of data establishes information. Whenever you have the exchange of data between two avatars, you must have a rule set, okay, in order for understanding to be had. Okay. Now, rule sets might be tight, like in our physical reality, or loose, like in a out-of-body experience or various dreams that you might have already had. Okay. But to have experience, choice, but to have these experiences, choice and free will is required. Okay. And remember, consciousness in its purest form is fundamental and exists as potential. So a context within which that experience and choice can be defined is necessary. Even a simple exchange of information requires a rule set to define the conditions of interaction, transmission and reception. Okay, because remember, like I've said before, consciousness in its purest form is fundamental. Okay, and exists as potential. So consciousness in its purest form is fundamental and potential. What makes it dynamic is the interaction. Okay, a virtual reality rule set that applies different choices that it can make. Okay, undergirding free will or tying into free will. All right. Because free will and choice go hand in hand. And free will and choice leads to a good learning lab or virtual reality experience. Okay. And this is where potential is manifested. Okay. You need a virtual reality is needed for consciousness, because consciousness at its purest core is potential. And this potential is unactualized until actualized through a simulation to where it's provided with choice and free will. Then it can manifest the potential into actuality. Okay? That potential can be actualized by the presence of a simulation, free will, and choice available to it. Okay? Now, any visuals that you see, whether it be in dreamland, an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience, etc., always represent your own subjective interpretation of data, which is important. Not the data itself. Okay? The data that you receive is structured around a three-dimensional reality. And you just attach metaphors upon the data you receive, because metaphors are primarily the best ways that we use to communicate ideas. Okay? And complex ideas. Okay? And let me just add that really good teachers, instructors, know the power in using metaphors in relation to teaching. Okay? Good teachers use good metaphors. Okay? Now, depending upon the circumstance, visual, quote-unquote, data may be given to you in the form of a metaphor by the system, or data might be given to you in the form of your own interpretation of the data presented, okay? But remember, it's the meaning that is important, not how you get the data. Just remember that, and I'll get back to that a little later. But well, let me just say that you might have a dream, and in this dream, your grandpa said something profound to you. All right? Or somebody that you know or somebody that you loved and lost might appear to you and say something really profound to you. Now, that would have more influence, and that might be more believable to you because it's somebody that you know or somebody that you recognize or somebody that's famous, etc., etc., okay? Meanings are conveyed more successfully through people that you are familiar with or that you respect or look up to or idolize, etc. Right? As opposed to it coming from a three-headed dog or, Buttons, your cat. Those messages won't be as ingraining it won't be as ingrained within your being as if it came from, a political figure that you respected. But this is it really, your grandfather or your your wife that died or your son that got killed in the car wreck? No, it's the system that is formulating that familiar image to you to convey or to either to convey a message to you, to show you something, or to get you to realize something, or to get you to face something. Okay? And this process is quite simple. Now, is it really them? Probably not, because they've probably already reincarnated back into this physical reality, or have reincarnated into another physical reality, because there are multiple virtual realities, okay, depending upon the quality of your consciousness and what you need. Because remember, your evolution, the system wants you to evolve because your evolution is its evolution. You're just a microcosm of the macrocosm. And the higher you go up, the more you realize that there is no difference. And not only that, but you start to realize that you are closer or a part of the system, and no difference. Okay. Now, the system can formulate these images or express certain keys and tidbits of wisdom, or establish a something like a test that's fear-based to put you through, to see what you do, to see how you react. Because ultimately it wants you to face those fears. So if you're having constant nightmares, then you need to fight. You have fears that you need to address and face. Okay. Or it's promoting ideas that you need to really think about. Or because at the end of the day, you do have free will. When you're dreaming, you have free will. Okay. And when you are present in this physical matter or three-dimensional reality, you have free will. Okay. But consciousness is the same. Okay, it's just interpreting a different stream of data. Okay, but your quality of being is still the same, whether you're dreaming or whether you're present in this three-dimensional reality. The only thing the difference is in dreamland, you are operating from your being level, which is why your fears tend to be so terrifying. Okay, because you're operating out of your being level. Okay, here we operate, most of us operate, or I can't say us, but most people operate from the intellectual level. Okay, which is in sync with ego. So that tends to suppress your fears. Okay, that's why so many people that are asleep learn more through dreams than they do during their waking life, because their waking life is so preoccupied with having a job, taking care of children, and, making sure dinner's on the table, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So, and very rarely do they operate out of their being level. Okay. From the being level, rather. So those dreams are really important because the dream, when they go to sleep, that dream world is when they can actually tap into and operate out of their being level and actually learn and confront fears. Okay. So, moving on. When talking about that reality, because, consciousness is fundamental and it exists. It can exist in any reality. Okay. So when speaking about non-physical reality and physical reality, the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and making all these comparisons are really only metaphors, because everything, every reality is quote unquote spiritual or non-physical. What gives our reality the illusion of physicality is separation. Okay. And ego. Elements of ego. So, but just for the sake of argument, when speaking of the non-physical or the realm that consciousness is in, it's not a three-dimensional spatial reality, because this space is an illusionary phenomenon. Okay. There are no fundamental or objective spatial shapes, forms, or physical senses to see or hear with, other than those that are imagined by your consciousness. Okay, that has this reality as its base reality. Okay, see, when the reason why when you go to sleep and you dream and then you have a bad dream, you wake up in this reality is because this reality is your base reality. So consequently, every other reality frame is going to be interpreted in a 3D spatial reality, in 3D spatial dimensions and 5 sensory data interpretations. Okay. All right. So since this reality is your base reality, yes, you are going to interpret your dreams, even though your eyes are closed the whole time. And if you really think about it, how can you be seeing anything? Okay. Or, hearing, quote unquote, hearing anything, or speaking, it is your consciousness that is, interacting through it all. All right. Not your physical body, because your physical body is offline at that point. All right. So all the images that you see, all the people that you meet, that is all formulated, or it is all a construct of a larger architect that you are interpreting data through. Okay, so you are interpreting data by way of the system itself. So when do you interact with the larger consciousness system? In your dreams, in waking life. Because you could not be listening to this installment. You cannot be seeing the images on your computer screen or on your smartphone. You cannot eat anything. You cannot do anything in this reality or in any reality without the larger consciousness system, or who a lot of people call God or Allah, streaming that data to your consciousness, or allowing that data to be present for your consciousness to interpret. Period. See, this is out of everything that I say, this, and even for me too, this point has been the hardest to grasp by anybody, is the fact that, you think that you're in a physical body and that you're walking around doing things, and just because you can knock on a table that it's solid, and you go about your day thinking that, this is an objective reality, and, You know, you live inside of a world, which is, you live, you know, inside of a house that is, that lives on a continent that is, a part or, on Earth, you know, which revolves around the sun, which is a part of a galaxy, which is a part of a larger universe, et cetera, which is, I mean, and it goes on and on and on. But the information, all of the information that you're getting from from the data that's presented to you, okay? Because as when we're children, we're taught to interpret patternized data. Okay, so when you see a round thing that is edible sitting on this countertop, you know, we are taught to interpret that patternized data as an apple. So every time we see that same pattern of data, we refer that to our source reference as an apple. Okay, and we're taught this, you know, growing up and throughout life entirely. So it's hard to really look at it this way because of our culture. Because our culture teaches us to interpret it basically the opposite. But yes, everything is digital. Everything is data. You are just interpreting, the data is just patternized, okay, which is being simulated by this larger consciousness system, which you can liken it to a computer if you want to, for all you computer science majors. And then that data is actually streamed or made available to consciousness, which is outside of the simulation. Okay? So at all times, there is that intermediary, which is the larger consciousness system between your body and the avatar. But you never would know it. So that's something to make your noodle. Think on that a little bit, okay? And I guarantee you, if you understand that tidbit of information, your life will totally change forever. So, now, sleep. In relation to sleep, sleep does have multiple functions, positive functions, okay? It works both mental, when you look at work, both mental and physical, work generates waste products. And these waste products are the byproduct of, metabolism and cell function, okay, that accumulate faster during the day than really can be eliminated. And sleep allows the body to really catch up on these processes, okay. And everyday dreams, as also evidenced by REM, with most people going through about 4 to 6 dream cycles every night, and also many of these cycles or many of these dreams are also not remembered, okay, if not most are not remembered, okay. And in these dreams, you are also working, okay, on consciousness evolution in these dream realms, okay, in these dream world reality frames, okay. And just like your waking life, okay, so you're working in these dream worlds just like you're working to evolve, or should be working to evolve during your waking life. All right. So, and it's no difference, or it should be no difference. Okay. The consciousness works day and night. Okay. It does not sleep because it doesn't have to. All right. Sleep is a byproduct of a 3-dimensional virtual reality with a strict rule set, created by way of an evolutionary process. Because the reason this reality is, and it's structured this way, is due to evolution. All right. So, and this is also really efficient because remember, evolution fulfills every available path, and thus naturally gravitates to the most effective and efficient path, okay, and always seeks to follow the path of least resistance, okay. So it's always most efficient to conserve the greatest amount of energy, and you do not want to have any unnecessary energy expenditures, okay? And try to avoid that. And the system operates the same way. Okay. Now, to make better progress, it's always good to have, a variety of experiences. So, in your waking life, you have, there is a strict rule set. Okay, three spatial dimensions. One can argue, and then you would have your other dimension of time, etc., which is a tighter rule set, which gives you a certain type of experience. And then, when you're in a dream reality, you might have a looser rule set to where flying is an option. Okay, or teleportation might be an option. Okay. But some things can only be experienced in one frame or the other. Okay, in this rule set, you might receive stricter or harsher consequences for your actions. In a dream reality, you might be able to get away with it a little bit more. Okay, and often these frames are really connected. The physical reality and your dream reality, these frames are connected by intuition. Okay, because your intuition is the intercessor or the intermediary. Okay, and sometimes by intellectual process when dreams are remembered. So let's just say you go through a day of working for corporate fictitious or parenting, etc. You're tired, you go to sleep, you have a multitude of dreams. Some you might not remember, but your consciousness is learning from it anyway, even though you do not remember. Okay? But you might wake up and get this epiphany one morning. You might have an epiphany one morning. Or you might have a moment of clarity as soon as you wake up in the morning. And the cause of that is pretty much what you've learned during REM sleep or your journey throughout these dream realities. Okay? And you're feeling that way through an intuitive sense by way of your consciousness. Okay? All right? And just remember, none of the learning at the being level is lost. Okay? Just because you might not be able to remember when you wake up. Okay? And as far as intuition is concerned, the third eye or pineal gland acts as an extrasensory receptor / transmitter of subtler frequency ranges. Okay, remember, I'm just speaking in metaphors. Okay, don't get attached. It is an evolved gland made up of cells that is extremely sensitive to slight variations of probability. And these probability variations, also a metaphor now, let's keep it light and free, are the basis of our virtual reality. Okay? Probability variations. Okay, because remember, we do live in a probabilistic reality. A probabilistic subjective reality. Alright? And also, another good thing is that having to sleep forces you to put aside issues and problems for a while, often resulting, like I said, in this big picture or a moment of clarity in the morning. And also, too, is because we tend to emotionally and mentally paint ourselves into corners all the time. And sleep breaks this very inefficient self-referential cycle. Okay, it's just like rebooting your perspective when it gets hung in an endless loop or keeps returning an error message. Okay, and this saves a huge amount of ineffective or wasted process cycles, and thus a very efficient use of resources. Okay. Now, When you go to sleep, nothing happens to your consciousness. Nothing. It is just no longer interactive with your avatar in this reality. Okay? Meaning the uplink of data from your avatar in this reality is quiet. And if you're dreaming, the uplink, from you in dreamland is still active, whether you remember the dream or not. Okay. Now, even if you don't remember, your experiences are still a part of your larger experience base, even though they don't make it or become a part of this reality, okay, which is intellectual awareness. Okay, so even if your dreams even if you don't remember dreams when you wake up, which is simply becoming intellectually aware of your dreams, even if that doesn't happen, your experiences or your learning is still reserved within your larger experience base. Okay. And your lifetime here is the things that you learn at the being level are learned or are kept in consciousness, in your at the being level, okay, which is why you cycle through so many different lifetimes. Okay, it's a learning process. Okay, and what you label as fact isn't necessarily kept as far as what you know at the being level. What is kept is what directly contributes to your evolutionary growth towards love. Okay? And I mean, just think about it. Because some people might say, oh man, that's a bad thing. You know, I'm getting ripped off here. Well, just think if you had to remember like all of the car accidents you were ever in through 1,000 lifetimes, or you know, if you got murdered 6 times, or if you died in about 80 car crashes. I mean, just think if you remembered all of that. You know, that would be a deleterious state to exist in. You wouldn't come out of the house if you remembered everything. So what is remembered is that which you've learned that can directly contribute to your evolutionary growth at your being level. Okay? Remember, the system wants you to succeed, and you succeed by evolving towards love throughout various realities, okay, which are indeed real. Now, let's just assume that you learn something significant to your development from your experiences, okay, that you don't intellectually remember in this reality. All right. Now, it will, like I said, be stored in your larger base of learning at your being level. Okay. And that will add to your quality of consciousness, okay, which will increase slightly in relation to your next incarnation, okay. All right. Now, you are, and let me just reiterate this because I feel it's important, are a consciousness, all right, that is interpreting a data stream which defines a physical reality and interactions within a physical reality environment. Okay. Now, when you fall asleep, you're the same. You're just getting a very different data stream that defines your interactions within this dream environment, while getting little to no data defining your physical or this physical base reality. Okay. Now, you can also change reality frames at the same time. Okay. And changing reality frames is similar to you going to sleep and this reality becoming more distant or fades away, and the reality that consciousness interprets becomes clearer and clearer. Okay. Now, since this multi-dimensional you or consciousness, it operates or is animated, motivated, and makes choices by expressing an intent that flows without being directed from its internal core. Okay. And these choices are perfect, effortless, effortless reflection of that core. Okay, of your being. All right, no ego, no, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, oftentimes when in this reality, once intellect takes over, your operations are animated, motivated, or make choices by thinking. Okay. Mentally manipulating and calculating and comparing relative to the wants, needs, and desires of self. And doing as opposed to being. By analyzing and applying the intellect, okay, which is the servant of the ego, to whatever is the object of your desire. Okay. And when you permit your intellect to direct your being to serve wants, all but the reality that is in focus of the intellect turns to smoke, really, essentially, as multidimensional awareness collapses to the focus of the intellect. Okay. And even meditation is no more than a tool used to help you control the intellect and thus enable you to find and integrate with that core of your being. Okay. And a large portion of our personality, or your personality, how you interpret data, drives us to action, turns us on, upsets us, encourages our attitudes, sets us off, piques our interest, captures our attention, makes us feel good or feel bad, is biologically influenced. Okay. A large portion of our personality, how we interpret the data, is biologically influenced. Consciousness interprets a specific reality or data through a body or brain that must exist and develop according to the PMR rule set. So there is no physical body and brain without it being subjected to a rule set. That would not exist. You can't have a physical body and a brain without that body and brain being subjected to a rule set. Speaking even more specifically, our physical bodies and brains would not and cannot exist without a three-dimensional spatial reality. When you're dreaming and you see people that have seemingly physical bodies, that is just data interpreting your interpretation of data. Okay, or that data being streamed to you. Okay, but it is data streamed to you with the illusion of it being subject to a three-dimensional reality. All right. And there also is interactive feedback between the environment and the body and brain, each also altering and changing the other. Okay, the brain modifies how we interpret, or how it interprets its reality with the environment, also causing the brain to modify itself in adaptation to the environment. Okay. Now, so moving on. All dreams are not of the same type, nor do they all spring from the same source or have the same functionality. However, all dreams do represent a specific reality that is every bit as real and operational, okay, as this physical reality. Okay. Dreams are not rooted in lesser realities, just different realities with different rule sets, limitations, and opportunities for growth. They are opportunities for growth. Your dreams are opportunities for you to work on growth at the being level. All right. They provide opportunities for experience and growth that are not available within physical reality that we experience because of the looser rule set. So there are opportunities for you to learn within this unique paradigm that you cannot learn in our reality due to the softer rule set. Okay. I mean, some dreams might be little more than just very basic, futile elements or futile things that we might have or create on our own accord. Or they might be peak experiences of great depth and meaning. Okay. And how much you remember depends on how clear your connection is between these various realities. Okay. All right. So, moving forward. Now, dreams are also sometimes strangely specific because they use information that is not available to your physical reality awareness. Okay. And many of your questions are generated because of a common cultural belief trap. Okay. Meaning you believe that this physical reality or your physical reality awareness is real. Okay. Or you believe that you are the real you, the only you, the primary you, and everything else is imaginary, like dreams. Oh, they're not real, they're not substantial, only mind or brain tricks or fluctuations. You might not think you believe this at an intellectual level, but at a deeper level, this is how we tend to understand and define reality. Oh, this is the real me when I'm dreaming. That's the fake me, or that somehow is an illusionary phenomenon. See, your this physical reality awareness seems to be only one dimension of you. But if you know the truth, you would comprehend the fact that you are multidimensional. You are a multidimensional being of consciousness that is aware within this larger consciousness system, and not just a fragment of you, focused in this physical reality, virtual reality learning lab. Okay. And from the viewpoint of your physical reality awareness, some of those other dimensions of you interacting and learning through experience within various reality frames are experienced as dreams. Okay. And you do have other residual self-images of yourself in these other reality frames. Okay. So sleep has multiple functions that are necessary for the maintenance and growth of the individual. Okay. And it's not that some are more main and others more secondary. All are important. Okay. They're just different, like the multiple functions of your circulatory system. Delivering nutrients, taking away waste, fighting infection, maintaining temperature, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. Sleep provides an alternate reality for us to have experiences, i.e. to have intents and make choices in. Okay. The events, situations, intents, choices, actions, and interactions experienced while sleeping, meditating, traveling, or any other quote-unquote non-physical reality outside of our base reality are as valuable and pertinent to our learning process as the experiences in physical matter reality. All right? And you need to really start looking at it like that. Because a lot of people are discounting what they receive in their dreams, the lessons that they go through in their dreams, because of ignorance. Okay? And we as units of consciousness operate, exist, learn, and grow in multiple realities. Okay? This reality is just one. Okay? So, each of the realities in which your awareness, which is your ability to make choices, your conscious ability to make choices, operates, it provides a unique experience. Okay, it's a space that supplies a specific type of learning opportunities. Okay. And yes, even if you do not remember your dreams, you are still dreaming. And even if you don't remember your dreams, everybody appears to go through this REM period during sleep. Okay. And using the dream reality as a learning tool, if you do that, you are really getting the fullness of your experience space. Okay? And then once you start to get or learn your lessons that you've learned in your dream world intuitively, and then once you start to look at life here and now, you start to really become fuller as a person. Okay? So with that being said, I'd just like to say thanks. And once again, make sure you check out my book. It's called Gnosis of a God, Gnosis of a God. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, hit that like button, share, tell everybody you know. And what else am I not forgetting? Okay, thanks to my loyal subscribers that have been with me through it all and through all these other installments. And check out my Facebook page, Brother Prodigy on Facebook. And I think I'm forgetting something, I'm not sure, but once again, share it with anybody you can. All right. And with that being said, what's today's date? Today is July the 31st. All right. So long.